So today we're going to be introducing two new keywords, and they're going to be slightly different to yesterday's set. And today what we're going to be doing is utility usage or utility planning keywords. So these are sort of on the flip side to yesterday. They were more about what to do on reactions or kills, and this is more about how do we plan for utility usage. So at the top here, I've put that these keywords can be used together, and typically they are done so, but they can also be used as standalone keywords. And those two keywords are block and invite. So they do replace other phrases or communication, which we will explain in a second. But the basic premise is block. So block is used to block a certain area of the map, usually by rotating smokes or molotovs there. And invite is when you wish your opponents to come through a specific point, maybe a choke point, or potentially a certain area of the map which you might think they're more weak at. And you want to leave this area open and potentially use no utility there. Or bait them into a certain area so that you can then potentially abuse them with that. So, as I said, they can be used together. Just a quick example. If you want to, let's say, play short on dust 2, you might want to call the block on long, so rotating smokes through long, and then potentially having a guy playing short. That way you can block the opponents from wanting to take long control and potentially bait them into short control. In which then you would say block long, invite short, and then you could play potentially short, bait them into short, and abuse them for that. So that's just one quick example of where we can use this, but obviously we are going to go into Skybox. We are going to have a look at two examples, and that's going to be the Young Ninjas versus Tricked game, and we're going to use Overpass for this example. So the first example will be the Young Ninjas side, and on round 22, what they're going to do is they're going to perform a monster block. So what this is going to look like is ZTR is going to smoke from spawn down towards monster or the monster pipe. The first smoke is deployed, which means the opponents are going to more filter towards the B short area. Obviously, they're not trying to invite short here. They're still trying to fight it, but they have their block focused towards the long. So as soon as this smoke's about to fade, which it is about now, Rolf is going to deploy the second smoke, keeping that blockade tightly packed towards monster. Now, as this second smoke's coming to an end, Sapek's going to reposition towards Killer, and he's obviously going to deploy his third smoke. Now, in this next situation, they don't throw any more smokes past this point, but they do have the potential to throw more smokes. For example, Fizzy's playing up towards long. He can easily fall back to sight from this location right here. He could easily smoke off monster again, deploying that fourth smoke, which in this scenario probably would have played into their favor because the opponents do attack the B site through monster and short. But they didn't do that, but they could have. So obviously this is a good example of a short block. They're just going to keep rotating those smokes. A monster block, and they're just going to keep rotating these smokes there. That allows them to block that area nice and good. That's one example of a block. So I'll give one more example where you might want to use it. We can take, let's say, Inferno. And let's say it's late round, maybe there's 40 seconds left on the round, and you push Banana with two guys on the site, and let's say you've got two guys towards A. They've got a bit of utility left. You see no one Banana. Then you might want to call, it could be an A guys, why don't we block short? So you call your teammates to block short at this point. They can maybe deploy a smoke there, maybe deploy a Molotov. That's another use of how we might use a block. And finally, we have invite. So we have one more example here, and this is where we're going to see an invite short from Tricked. But this is quite well done. So their plan here is don't throw a Molotov towards short, the short monster pipe, which is something that they do every single round of this half. Tricked will throw that Molotov, but for this particular round, they're not going to do that. And the reason why is they're going to set up inside connector with a double boost. So obviously they're going to get mollied, they're going to smoke that off, and they're going to be double boost here. And they're going to be aiming down towards this pipe right here. So obviously if they were to molly this, Sapek's going to smoke it. They're potentially not going to get that kill. But because he doesn't smoke it, they're easily able to get that kill. They've invited short. They haven't thrown the molly that they usually do. They haven't thrown any extra utility. They've got that player. They've baited him into going through the pipe, and he's died. So that's an example of invite. So obviously, how do we use these calls more often? So for example, a lot of players like to say, I've smoked this or I've smoked that. But we could potentially replace that call with I've blocked. If your plan is to block a certain area of the map, then this is something that you might want to call instead of I'm smoking X or Y, maybe I'm blocking X or Y. and vice versa. You have the other example of potentially in-game leaders setting up utility planning for the round. So, for example, the caller calling we should block this angle, or potentially an anchor saying we should block this, or also we should invite this. And that's the basic premise of block and invite. Really, really simple calls. Don't get used enough. Lots of teams could benefit from using them, but this is a good way of minimizing the amount of calls that you have to make and having everyone on the same page. So that's it for today. We'll be introducing more keywords from tomorrow. Thanks.